Okay, Chaim, here we go. The Heilige Tanya. We're going to speak about Lamborghinis and Bugattis. Yeah? Okay, here we go. We're mentioning the idea that Rabbi called himself a beinoni. Remember, did Rabbi ever stop learning Torah?
No.
So intense was his Torah learning that was the angel of death able to take his life?
No.
He was immune. Be'emes. When a person's learning Torah, he's immune. Really. If you're really learning it. Torah is above this world. Be'emes. King David had the same thing. So how could Rabbi, if the world says that a person who's a beinoni means someone who has 50% mitzvahs, 50% merits, and 50% demerits, averos, how could Rabbi have made such a fatal mistake? And how does the world, when we say a beinoni, oh, he's a beinoni, he's like 50-50. How do we reconcile that Rabbi himself called himself a beinoni? Because that just can't make any sense. Rabbi never stopped learning Torah. The Malach HaMavis couldn't even touch him. So how do we reconcile this definition of beinoni? And how do we reconcile what the world calls, and the Gemara seems to imply, that a beinoni is somebody 50% mitzvahs and 50% of errors? The other wasn't Rabbi. Rabbi was a lot more than 50%. Rabbi never stopped learning Torah. Rabbi was the Gadol Hador. So look inside. Vaha. And this, the Amrinan Ba'alma, and this that the world says, the Mechza al Mechza, that half upon half, Mikri Beinoni, it's called a Beinoni. V'roi Zechuyas Mikri Tzadik, and a person with a majority of merits is called a Tzadik. These are very important words, these three words. Hu Shem HaMusham. This is a borrowed expression. What does it mean when something's a borrowed term?
It's not theirs.
Well, let's understand it. A borrowed expression means I'm taking the concept and I'm borrowing part of that concept and applying it somewhere else. I'm not taking the full concept. I'm taking an element of that concept and putting it somewhere else. For example, the Svarim explained, when you say that a guy's got like a heart of stone, do you actually mean that his heart is made out of stone? Do you mean that the organ inside of his body that's fleshy and pumping blood and has 4 arteries is actually now become a piece of rock?
No.
What are you implying? You're borrowing a part of the idea of stone, that stone is something which is hard, it's not feeling, and you're saying that the part of a stone that's hard, that's unfeeling, I'm going to borrow that and apply that to the way that your heart is, that it's unfeeling and hard. You're not able to feel. You have a hardened heart that doesn't allow things to penetrate in. And therefore, I don't mean that his heart is actually made out of a piece of stone. That makes sense?
Yeah. What was the term that meant borrowed again?
Shem HaMusham. Mushal is borrowed. It's a borrowed term. And therefore, when we talk about a beinoni, and that we are speaking about this concept of 50-50, 50% mitzvahs, 50% of errors, we're borrowing a concept from beinoni, not what beinoni really means. We're going to learn what beinoni really means. Beinoni means something very deep. Beinoni is like a very high level person, as we're going to see. But we're borrowing a concept of beinoni, and we're going to apply it in a specific situation. Like we borrowed a concept from a stone, that it's hard and inanimate, and doesn't feel, and is maybe lifeless, and we applied that to somebody's heart. So we're going to borrow an idea about beinoni, and we're going to apply it in a specific situation. Beinoni, that means half and half, this idea. How are we going to apply it? When we say that someone's a beinoni, we don't mean that he's actually a beinoni through and through. We're borrowing a part of the idea of beinoni and applying it to a specific situation, which is le'inyan schar va'onish. When we talk about reward and punishment.
What's that mean?
When we talk about reward and punishment, the idea is like this. Anyone ever seen a court case?
Yeah.
No, they just swore in the new judge.
She has one in.
We're on our way. Gewaldic, right? Brilliant woman. Now, if they don't pack the court, how many judges do you have?
9.
9. You have an odd number. Fine. Let's say that there's 9 in the Supreme Court. Why is there an odd number?
That's a majority.
Because you need a majority. When you have a case that's being tried, how do you judge if he is exonerated or if he's liable? Take a vote and the majority wins. Majority evidence. Doesn't have to be 100%. Majority. That's how you judge what's called schar v'aynish, punishment and reward. Meaning, you got 2 people that come into court. Reuven drives a Lamborghini. Shimon drives a Bugatti. Which one would you guys rather have? Are they faster?
Bugattis are faster.
Yeah?
Lamborghini looks nice.
So, Reuven's driving the Lamborghini, Shimon's driving the Bugatti. Shimon was a little bit, he was swerving a little bit. He was texting, Hashem Yirachem, never ever text, don't text when you're driving. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. He's texting, Hashem Yirachem. Reuven, though, didn't look while he was changing lanes. He comes into the lane of Shimon. Well, Shimon wasn't so careful himself, he was texting. And Reuven knocks his Lamborghini into Shimon's Bugatti. Not Pasha, you know. You know, a touch-up job in a Bugatti is going to cost you a lot. They go to Beis Din, they go to court. They go to court. What does the judge do, or the judges? They take all the evidence, and they have to judge the case. How do they judge the case? Majority evidence. You know what they call the person who wins? Tzaddik. So they, tzedakta, you won. You're a tzaddik. Do you know what they say when the case seems to be at a stalemate? Beinoni. And the person who lost, in this case, would be a Russia. You lost. Tzaddik means you won the case. Beinoni means there's still need. You have 2 judges, each of them made up their mind. The third one has to come in and tip it. But before the third judge comes in, if the case is at a beinoni, there's equal side that says exonerated, equal side that says liable. Let's say Reuven wins, because they come and see that Shimon, the fact that you were texting was so irresponsible of you, that when Reuven made the turn into that lane, that you were really liable and you are not going to get the money. You have to pay Reuven for the damage to his Lamborghini. When the court decides that Reuven is a tzaddik and he won the case, this is the main crux and the main point. Does that tell me anything about who Reuven is as a person? Does it tell me that he's a tzaddik in life? And does that tell me anything about who Shimon is? It might tell me that, you know, he's an irresponsible person because he texts, but that he lost the case. Does that tell me about how much kavanah he had in Shemona Esrei today? Does that tell me about what kind of demons exist inside of him? I don't know anything. I just know in this case, I'm borrowing the term tzaddik and beinoni, and I'm applying it to a court case. So when the Gemara oftentimes talks about a person as a tzaddik, or a beinoni, or a rasha, was it actually talking about who he is? No. It was just talking about when there's a court case. You know when we have court cases? We just had one. It's only 5 weeks ago, my friends. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. And when a person is a tzaddik, it means that he just won the case. A person with 51% wins. A person beinoni means he's still on trial. You guys have that? Mm-hmm. So we're borrowing the term. But when the Zohar taught us what a tzaddik is that talking about a borrowed expression? No, because when the Zohar is teaching me what a tzaddik is, it's telling me what it is. referring to the inside of the person. Any questions on that?
So what's the mouth meaning here?
So we're going to see by Rabbi, certainly when he was talking about himself being a beinoni, didn't mean that he does 50% mitzvahs, 50% averos. And that that the world says beinoni doesn't mean 50% mitzvah, 50% avera. And a tzaddik is 51% mitzvah. If a tzaddik meant 51% mitzvah, there'd be we call the whole world tzaddik, which we kind of do. The guy, can you pass me the mustard, bro? What a tzaddik you are! Yeah, what a tzaddik. We throw around the word tzaddik like nothing. But what's a tzaddik really? That the Zohar is going to teach us all about, and the Balatayim is going to teach us all about. But as far as the idea, when the world says 51% mitzvahs, tzaddik, 51% averas, Russia, 50-50 beinoni, that is just a borrowed use of the term. That tzaddik means you won the judgment, and that's how courts work. 50-50 means stalemate, beinoni. 51% on the negative side, Russia, because you lost the case.
So how could I say that again? Doesn't make any sense.
Rabbi made a mistake. Rabbi wasn't talking about himself in the borrowed expression. Rabbi was talking about himself in the true meaning of beinoni, which we're going to learn from the Zohar. He wasn't talking about beinoni in judgment. That's the borrowed use of the term beinoni that the Gemara will sometimes use, referring to court cases, to be exonerated, to win, to be the tzaddik. That's a 51%. 50-50, beinoni, stalemate. 51% on the side of chov, bad side, Russia. That's just the borrowed use of the term beinoni, Russia, tzaddik, which we use sometimes when we're talking about court cases. But what's a tzaddik? Meaning, what's the internal universe of the tzaddik? What does that mean? That's the Zohar's department. The Zohar is going to tell us what goes on in the soul of a tzaddik. What goes on in the kishkas of the beinoni. What goes on in the inner universe of the Rasha. That the Balatayim is going to develop for us. He's going to take some time. He's going to build this up. And he's going to tell you, you want to see what's really going on in your soul? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to talk it out. But when the Gemara sometimes talks about tzaddik, beinoni, and Rasha, and it seems to imply this 51%, 49%, 50-50, that's only a borrowed use of tzaddik, beinoni, and Rasha. That's not the real meaning of tzaddik, beinoni, and Rasha. That's just a borrowed usage. But for sarva einish, for court cases, the real meaning of beinoni, tzaddik, and Rasha, meaning the inner dimension of what that means, that we're going to learn from the Zohar. He's going to develop that as we go through the Sefer.
Doesn't it seem like there's a consensus in just like the general use of these words on what they actually mean? Some people are still using them as a borrowed meaning.
Say again louder.
We would say that Rosh Hashiva is a tzaddik.
Sure he is.
but then if we're looking at the essence of what tzaddik means, it's questionable.
Well, let's learn. Should know. A person who's a beinoni, we're going to see, is also a manish.
Yeah, that's a
high-level Jew.
Like,
we just don't generally use that in our vernacular because what a beinoni. Well, what a beinoni. We usually think like a beinoni is like what a like average schmo. But the beinoni of the Balatanya, which is really the beinoni of the Zohar, is a mighty Jew. Remember, the Tanya is called Sefer Shel Beinoni, the book to take you to be a beinoni, to put on a cape and mamish fly around saving the world as a beinoni. The beinoni is a heroic individual. The more you're going to learn about what a beinoni is, you're going to be, wow, halavai, that we should be a beinoni. We're going to see it. Tzaddik is a very special qualification. We borrow the tzaddik like the guy passing me the mustard. Oh, it's tzaddik. Yeah. What a tzaddik. You help to clean up a little bit? Well, what a tzaddik you are. So that's because we borrow the term tzaddik. But who is actually a tzaddik? And the true, it's called Shem HaTorah, the essence of what a tzaddik is. When we come to heaven, and Hashem is actually looking at tzaddik, beinoni, and Rasha, that we're going to see is a very deep world. That's something that's happening inside of us. It's going to talk about the interplay of our two souls, like we're going to learn a lot about. Okay? Lefi shenidan acharuba mikre tzadik bedinoi. He's called a tzadik in din. Ma'achar shezoicha bedin. Aval le'inyan anitas. When it comes to the essence, Shem HaTorah, what does tzaddik mean? He's going to give us a brief definition now. Ve'amayla shel maylas madregas, and the very high level of what's called chalukos tzadikim v'beinanim, the different level of categories of tzadikim. There's many levels within tzaddik v'toyvle and tzaddik v'ram. Many levels of tzadikim. Even in beinanim, there's endless levels in there. What that actually is. So Amar Chazal, here Chazal is telling us about what they are. Tzadikim Yetzer Tov Shofta. That by the tzadikim, the Yetzer Tov is the shofet. What is the shofet? The judge. How many judges do they have?
2.
No, tzaddik.
1.
Yetzer Tov. They only have one judge. Which means if you only have one judge, whatever that judge is, and in the case of the tzaddik, it's a Yetzer Tov. So what do you think the tzaddikim only do?
Good.
Only good. They only do good. They only want to do good. Shenamar, what's the verse that exemplifies the inner world of the tzaddik? A verse from King David. Says King David, our king, our warrior, poet king. King David. Mamish. David Malcolm Mashiach. Says King David the famous words, V'libi chala b'kirbi, and my heart has been hollowed out inside of me. Meaning, the heart, we're going to learn, is the seat of the passion of both the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. King David hollowed out the Yetzer Hara through fasting and through learning Torah. He literally uprooted the Yetzer Hara. He actually turned it into, he's Makarev. He turned it into an ally, an asset, to the point that there was no more Yetzer Hara anymore. Which one thing you notice about King David is he started his life with the Yetzer Hara. And by the way, he started his life with a stark Yetzer Hara. That he was one of the few people to completely hollow out the Yetzer Hara, to totally destroy it. Now you might ask me, so why is he still alive in the world? So I think you have different missions, even after they only have desire to do good. There's no more free will in many ways. Which starts to answer a certain question is, does everyone have free will? Well, certain tzaddikim seem to have very limited free will. If there's no more Yetzer Hara, meaning they could have had free will for a certain part of their life, and then once the Yetzer Hara was gone, now there's no more free will. So that's what it means. So a person who, forget the fact that he does Averos. A person who even wants to do Averos, is he even in the realm of tzaddik? Don't get so down on me.
So that must mean that there can be a completely bad person.
A Rasha, we're going to see the Rasha, the Toivlai, is a Rasha that always wants to do good, but he keeps losing to the Yetzer Hara.
So there's no equal.
Rasha Varala, which is basically not existent.
How is it that there's something that exists that doesn't have a counter equal?
Yeah, the side of Tzad of the Toivla is very little.
But we're
Tzad of Varala is very big. Tzad of the Toivla is very little. On the opposite side, Rasha Varala is almost nothing. Like an evil seed, basically non-existent. There's a lot of Rasha V'Toivla. A Rasha means a Rasha going to keep, remember we explained in the beginning, what's a Rasha? As soon as he does one of there, he's already called a Rasha. But Tovlo, he wants to do good. He has a desire. But what's the problem? The Netflix were just too geschmack looking. They just, I don't know, it's like there's a pop-up and I had to press the button. But I'm trying. The Rasha V'Toivla is trying to do good. I want to be better. But I keep getting enticed by the others. I'm too weak, Rabbi. A lot of the Rasha V'Toivla is that type of, I'm trying. I really am. And he has ups and downs. And there's many degrees in that. As much as the Tov is trying to pull him. But I fall. The beinoni, like we're going to learn, has both fighting, but he always chooses the Yetzer Tov. Meaning, he's fighting. The beinoni is a fighter all the time. That we can relate to. There's a fight. The Russia, in many ways, is known to give up, and he's also going to fight the Russia. And to the degree that he has, that the neshama is vibrant inside of him, will be the amount that he pushes back. But the beinoni is a mamish warrior, always fighting the other side. Khabib and McGregor, mamish trying to destroy his life. He's always able to overcome it. All the time overcoming. The tzaddik doesn't even have the fight though.
That's my kasha.
But then what's the tzaddik Ra?
Tzaddik Ra, we explained in the beginning, in the previous year, he has Ra, but it's loy. He conquered it, but it's not eliminated. It hasn't been flipped to good. It's kafuf. Look on the first daf of the Tanya. He pinned it down. Right. It's deep in a pit. It's conniving to destroy him, but it will never crawl out of its pit to do anything.
So the beinoni so the outcome in all of them is the same. However,
if you looked at a tzaddik and a beinoni on the outside side of a tzaddik and a beinoni, what would they all look like to you?
Same.
What would they look like to you on the outside? Tzaddik. Oh my goodness. All he does he ever do Averis? Any of those three? No. If you take special X-ray glasses and look inside their hearts, would they look different?
The beinoni would have two judges inside him. The tzaddik Ra would have one big Yetzer Tov judge and one set like inside a hole that deep down.
No judge. He's not even called a judge. He has no voice, but he's there.
He's there in prison, call it. And the tzaddik Tov as only the judge of Tov, but he's converted the Yetzer Hara
to even join together, the whole of Vavcha, to join and literally become a super judge and only do good.
But he's also not called a judge, right?
He's not called a judge. He joined together with the Yetzer Tov, and therefore, if you were to take those glasses, would they look different on the inside? Oh my God, worlds of difference. That's where the Zohar, Rabbi, and I understand what the Zohar does. The Zohar is always telling you, take everything you're learning in the Torah and just put on X-ray glasses, because everything you're learning in the Torah exists inside your heart. Remember this theme. The Zohar will take all the concepts that you ever learn in the Torah, will take Lech Lecha, will take every parsha in the Torah, will take every Gemara you learn, and show you how that Gemara is happening in your heart. Is actually happening inside of you. That's what's called Pinimius of Torah, the inner dimension of Torah. So what the Zohar basically did, he put on glasses that now we see into the hearts of man what's actually going on. And now we see that the tzaddik, there's no fight. Libi chola b'kirbi. The beinoni is a crazy fight. Wild. The Russia, there's a fight. But he's losing. But don't worry, he's still fighting. Says the Rebbe, She'ein lo Yetzer Hara, ki hargu b'tainis, that's the tzaddik. Aval kol mi shelo higil madrega zu. Anybody who did not reach this level of killing the Yetzer Hara, even if your merits are more than your demerits, are you anywhere near a tzaddik? No, not in the essence of tzaddik according to the Zohar. You're a borrowed tzaddik. You're a tzaddik b'din. Maybe you're going to win the court case. Eina b'mailas madregas tzaddik klal. V'lochein, and therefore, said Chazal, say our sages, the Medrash, Ra HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'tzadikim, Hashem saw, with regards to the tzadikim, shehein muatim, that there are very few tzadikim, true tzadikim, who completely hollowed out the Yetzer Hara. Those are few. Amad doesn't mean Hashem literally stood. V'sholsam b'chol dar, but Hashem, so to speak, got up and implanted the purely righteous, which also sounds like from this medrash that there is something called nature, that certain people are born a tzaddik. Hashem planted those in, besides the fact, like King David, we said, looks like he became a tzaddik because he started not as one, but here it sounds like that there's something called nature, that there are certain tzaddikim that are actually born totally pure, like Moshe Rabbeinu. It says the whole room filled with light. Chaim, people that their whole life is just. By the way, don't let every God book make you think they were all like perfect from the beginning. Many are fighters and became Gedolei Yisrael. The Kamosha Kozat Tzaddik Yisoid Olam. And this is talking about, so when it talks about Tzaddik, the Tovlai, maybe there's only one super Tzaddik, the Tovlai, every generation. That's why he ends with a second, says the Medrash, and then the Pasuk that Tzaddik Yisoid Olam, there's a Tzaddik that holds up the whole world. That maybe every generation there's even just one person who's like Tzaddik the Tovlai, that we're going to see later about Reb Shimon. That Reb Shimon said if there's only two people to keep the whole world standing, it's my son and me. And there's only one person righteous enough to keep the whole world standing. Now he wasn't doing this like for more likes on the, like he was some haughty thing. He knew who he was. If there's anyone to keep the entire world standing, it's me. Tzaddik Yisoid Olam. And we'll talk about that next time, what he told the angel of death that wanted to come destroy the world. And Reb Shimon basically had a word with him. To be continued next time. Yeshakaya.
So, what I'm trying to understand is